Hey, let's talk about finishing that side project of yours, or to start that project that you wanted to start for a long time. Most probably you are in one of these buckets. You thought about something, you did an 8-hour code sprint and you put all your sweat and tears into it during a weekend, but now you don't really see yourself motivated to continue after that. Or you thought about a great idea, but you realized that you didn't have one of the skills that you needed to actually build that, and now you are stuck in tutorial hell. Or you had an idea that it was a little bit of a bigger idea, and you realized that it didn't matter if you didn't went all in into that idea, so you just didn't even start it. Well, if you have identified with one of these personas, or you have been on a similar situation before, I got you covered. So let's take a look at how we can set up a plan to actually start and finish any specific side project, and this can be really used for anything actually. I'm going to give you a 3-step plan on how to do that and how to do that planning for you to succeed on those side projects. Let's get this started. Alright, so this is a plan that I actually used myself. It worked wonderfully for me, and I'm pretty sure that with a little bit of adjustment, it can also work for anyone that is watching this video right now. And like I was saying before, to be honest, this can be used with anything. I also used the same structure actually last year when I found myself super overweight and I had to lose a little bit of weight. And because I adopted this specific plan, I'm actually running my first marathon next week, which I'm super excited about. But yeah, it also worked wonderfully for me to put up a training plan and a schedule for me to start exercising more and start getting into any sports. Well, I have a lot of years of experience on the tech industry, and obviously, as it comes naturally, I've also tried to build many side projects before, failed a lot, didn't ship a lot of them, they're just dead code at this time. But through all these failures, I realized that every time that we start something new, we actually almost create a bar of energy, inspiration, and motivation that we have specifically related to that side project or that project overall. And when that bar depletes, then you basically stop having that inspiration or that motivation to work on that specific side project. In fact, when that bar depletes, it's almost like you are suffering when you are working at that, and you are draining away your motivation and inspiration from other things to actually work on this. And I realized that's very similar to that rush that you get when you actually start on a new job. You have all that adrenaline and that motivation building up, and you have that fear of failure as well. But all of that kind of vanishes after a couple of months, and you see yourself on that hamster wheel again, grinding for that next promotion, for that next bonus, and everything just becomes part of the routine for you. So this specific plan tries to capitalize on that energy bar that you refuel after every couple of days, and it tries to program you to actually not use a lot of that energy bar every day until you build that up and you increase that energy bar as well. So this plan tries to capitalize on that and on our short attention span and terrible habit forming skills that we have and we acquired as an internet native generation. And to be completely honest with you, I'm also terrible in habit formation and routines, and that's why I actually came up with this plan or this strategy to help me actually build these habits in a way that I knew I would be capable of. But at least on the aspect of side projects, I was able to come up with something that worked very well for me, and I believe that it can work very well for you too. But the first concept that we need to understand is actually that for you to succeed in any of these endeavors, you need to understand that consistency is much more valuable than quantity. With consistency, you will be able to achieve the quantity on the long term without actually burning yourself down and without sacrificing the things that actually help you replenish that energy bar on your day-to-day. So the first step to implement this plan, and for us to achieve that consistency, we basically need to start with a very easy, very attainable goal. And I've done that by creating a specific time frame in which I would work on a side project or on a specific thing that I wanted to achieve. And I would be religiously strict about not allowing myself to go over that period. I know it may sound strange or weird, and our goal here is to help us finish a side project, right? But having it on the first step step to actually make sure that we don't surpass that amount of time that we specifically set can appear a little bit odd. But hear me out, you understand why very soon. But this is something that we need to make sure that we get straight. Again, just to emphasize, this is the most important thing that you need to definitely get it right. You can't work more on that thing or on that side project than what you set out to do on that specific day. So let's think about a scenario. Let's say that you have a software engineering job, a 9-to-5 job. So most probably you would want to work on the side project or on that thing either before your job starts, so on the morning, on the early morning, or if you are more like a night owl like myself, you would do it after you finish working on that job. If that's the case, you already have quite a lot on your plate, and overworking on this specific side project, specifically on the beginning, can be quite detrimental for your journey and for your side project. In this case, if I would be on that scenario, my goal on this step 1 of the process would actually be to work 15 minutes every day of the week on a specific time period. Now, it's important here that you are very specific with that time period and not just say, hey, during the day, I will work 15 minutes on this. That's not how it works. What you want here is that you set up a specific time that you know you are going to be able to achieve, and that you know you are going to be able to have that focus time to work the 15 minutes on that side project. And those 15 minutes need to be without interruption, focus work, either researching or coding or whatever you need to do, only specifically to that side project. You're not allowed to check your phone, you're not allowed to check social media. You're only allowed to do tasks specifically in the benefit of that side project. So in my case, for example, in the beginning, the goal of this step 1 would be every day of the week, I'm going to work for 15 minutes on my project X after I finish dinner. So in my specific case, it was very simple. So this is a great example of a specific goal for the step 1 of the phase with a specific time frame. One thing to keep in mind here is that I definitely would try to have it as a daily goal, even if you need to set smaller amounts of period every day. On this way, you can really assure that you are doing that habit formation as hard as possible. And I'll try to avoid setting something like on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I will work on this for 30 minutes. It's better for you to do 15 minutes every day than 30 minutes on 3 days. And be aggressive and intentional on cutting it down here. It's much, much better to set a goal of 15 minutes that you are 100% sure that you are going to be able to complete every single day than a 45 minutes goal that you are 95% sure and you think that you are going to be able to do every day. All right, now that we have set up a daily goal for us, we can actually start working on the next step of the plan, which basically consists of setting up an amount of time that we're going to be running with this previous daily goal and that we'll be adding on top of it. Now you can probably start seeing a little bit better why it was so important for us to not really go over that amount of period that we set up on the previous step. So let's call this period of time that we're setting up right now on this step 2 a sprint. If you are a software engineer, which most of you that are watching me are, you know the concept of a sprint. We're going to use that concept very closely here and very similarly. On my case, when I use this specific framework, I normally put sprint times as 2 weeks, but you can make it so that yours is 1 month, 1 week, or whatever really you feel more comfortable with. You're going to be able to understand what works better for you, what you are more comfortable with, and you can only do that really by experimenting and trying the framework and seeing what works best for you. But in summary, this sprint or this adjustment period is going to be the amount of time that you are going to be running with a specific daily goal that will allow you to get comfortable with that in your daily routine, and it's going to build that habit into you. And it does that in a way that it doesn't really make it weird for you to do that work on that specific period of time, and it's going to make you feel comfortable with that as it goes. This is actually specifically designed in a way to make us feel good and confident on achieving our goals. So you can definitely think it as a personal victory every time that you finish a sprint without missing a single day. And that's why specifically we start with such a small amount of time, so that we can actually really ingrain that victory on our brains and that achievement and show ourselves in our brain that we are capable of creating this routine. I promise you that finishing this 2-week sprint that has a 15-minute daily goal is going to feel so much better than actually working 8 hours in a side project on the weekend. And this really helps us tremendously tremendously by really creating these small goals that are very achievable, but at the same time, because of that consistency and the dopamine of not missing a single day, it feels extremely rewarding. All right, so just to refresh a little bit, on the step 1, we created a goal of a specific amount of time on a specific part of the day that we're going to be committed on working on this specific side project, a daily goal. On step 2, we are creating this longer term goal that we're calling it a sprint, and that we're doing the commitment of not missing any single day of our step 1 goal. Now we can actually wrap everything up on the step 3 and our final objective. Alright, so now we have the foundation ready to finish our plan, and on this last step we need to come up with something that I'm going to call it a modifier. Okay, now that we have our daily goal and our sprint setup, we will feel very motivated and capable of achieving our goals, and it will become part of our routine. But unfortunately, most side projects are not really able to be finished and completed with only 15 minutes per day, and that's where the modifier comes in. So this modifier will be responsible for setting up the amount of time that we have on that daily goal in a way that is actually going to be changing after every single successful sprint, either by adding time to our daily goal or multiplying the previous amount of time that we were using on previous sprints. So let's picture this up. On our example from before, we could set something like this up: a daily goal of 15 minutes, a sprint of 2 weeks, and a modifier of 15 minutes. So on that specific example, on the first sprint, we're going to be working 15 minutes per day. On the second sprint, 30 minutes, on the third 45, and forever it goes until you feel like you can't really put more effort and time that your schedule is able to accommodate. A side note is that you can also use a multiplier on the modifier, which I personally have used and it has worked very well for me, so that you can ramp up your productivity and the time that you spent on this specific side project in a way that allows you to ramp that up much faster. But be very careful on setting something up that you are not going to be able to actually fulfill those goals. So with a multiplier modifier, we can set something like this up: a daily goal of 15 minutes, a sprint of 2 weeks, and the modifier of 2x. In this specific example, on the first sprint, we are going to be doing 15 minutes, on the second one, 30 minutes, on the third one, now we are going to do 1 hour. Right? And then after that, 2 hours, and it goes on until you reach your capacity. But I will leave that up to you to decide and see what works best for you. But yeah, in summary, by following this plan, you are able to basically create that very specific daily goal and that specific long-term commitment as well in terms of sprints, in a way that the extra amount of effort that you need to do between these different achievements and victories are relatively small. So you don't need to really start committing something that is very hard for you to do from the beginning. Like I said, this has worked wonderfully for me before. I couldn't ever finish side projects, and now I'm always able to ship something, and it has really helped me a lot. I hope that this can help some of you as well. Let me know in the comments if you found this useful, if you are using this type of framework, or if you did any type of variation on it. Let me know as well what worked better for you. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching, leave a sub, and I see you guys soon. Bye bye.